something like 36. Does that include me?
37.
I'm 37?
Going to class.
Oh, my God. 37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks. In a row?
Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of the WayBack Movies Podcast, a show where we review the best and not so best of 80s and 90s cinema, because really, fuck the 2000s. My name is Steve, and with me on this crazy journey,
Justin.
Doctor.
Doctor.
So here we are again.
Yes, sir.
About to talk about one of my favorite movies ever. So I'm excited. This is going to be awesome.
Delving once again into the View Askew universe.
Yes. The one that started it all, although the second chronologically, if that makes any sense. We are going to be talking about Clerks from October 19th of 1994. It's a fantastic little movie. I absolutely love it. It's, like I said, one of my favorite movies. It's one of the movies I've seen a ton of times. Much like Mallrats, I could pretty much recite every line of dialogue if need be.
Like last week, you probably will.
Yeah. I mean, you can rein me in if you want. Although I did get some feedback that people were laughing, basically by you just like letting me just sort of go.
And just let them have it.
They can almost see you just going, there he goes. Yep. All right. Okay. Moving on.
You know what the funny part was? The beginning, it's just like, I feel bad about, spoiling the movies. It's like, not only are we spoiling the movies, sir,
I'm now giving him...
Do you have a script in front of you? Because you are now radio playing it, basically.
And I do want to point out, no, I don't have a script in front of me, which makes me awesome.
Which makes it more impressive.
I'm going to stick with awesome and not sad. So that's what I'm doing.
No real news.
No, nothing fancy going on today. This is a pretty lame week, actually, for things of the movie nature.
Yeah. So we're going to just jump into it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, unless you want to talk about that Lion King trailer, but
no,
I don't really. So,
that's
the only other thing I'd be like, well, we've done that. We could talk about that because that came out.
We're already going back to the 90s. We don't need to...
I'm not sure how I feel about that, so let's not even bother. So, all right, let's just strap in, go into the WayBack Machine to, like I said, October 19th, 1994. Here we go. Strap in. Whoa. Oh, here we are. It's 1994.
Still wearing plaid.
Yep. Plaid's a thing nowadays. Boy, it's sad, that Kurt Cobain thing, right? I don't know.
Topical.
It's 1994. That is topical.
Hey.
Right?
These are the yokes. Yes, Clerks.
You're just shutting me down every time. Just I don't know what to say right now.
No sell.
God damn it.
Do the no sell.
It's radio plays. Theater of the mind. Damn it. All right, fine. So, like we've said repeatedly, Clerks, written and directed by Kevin Smith, produced by Scott Mosier and Kevin Smith, distributed by Miramax, box office of $3.2 million, against a budget of, okay, this gets a little complicated, so bear with me. Originally $27,575, post-production budget of $230,000, which was mostly just adding the soundtrack to it, plus adding $227,000 that he gave to Kevin to purchase the film, leaving it at a grand total of, and wow, did I make this difficult to write, $484,575 is how much this movie basically cost. So against a budget or box office of 3.2, it's not bad. So the cast is Brian O'Halloran as Dante Hicks, Jeff Anderson as Randall Graves, Marilyn Gigliotti as Veronica Loughran, Lisa Spoonhour as Caitlin Bree, Jason Mewes as Jay, Kevin Smith as Silent Bob, Walter Flanagan as Woolen Cap Smoker, Eggman, Offended Customer, Cat Admiring Customer. Had to throw that in there just for the Lon Chaney of the 90s, as he is referred to repeatedly in the commentary, because Walt Flanagan played a lot of characters in this movie. And,
Not Cousin Walter.
Nope. Although that's where the name came from. So basically, the idea for the film is Kevin Smith was just a guy working at a convenience store. Used to go see movies with his friend, Vincent Pereira, and they would just go see these movies, and he saw a movie called Slacker, and it made him go, oh, I can do that. So he decided he wanted to become a filmmaker. So he decided to go to a film school in Vancouver that was a 9-month program. And that program, basically, he went there because he wanted to, instead of learning about film theory and all that stuff, he just wanted to learn about how to do it. So he went there, cost I don't know how exactly much money, but when he went there, he met Scott Mosier, who became his producing partner, basically, for everything, and Dave Klein, who became the director of photography, or DP, as
Well, he
they
didn't
call
meet
it.
Dave Klein.
No, he didn't.
Scott
did,
Mosier
but-
met Dave Klein, and then they met.
Yeah. They met kind of afterwards, although I think he did meet him, but it was just
No,
like, they
eventually.
weren't friends
No.
until later. But Kevin basically was just like, yeah, we were supposed to learn how to do everything, and then they spent a lot of time doing film theory, and he's like, I just don't want to bother doing this. So he decided to split halfway through, because then he could take some of the money back and put that towards making a movie. So he made a deal with Mosier, and he was just like, okay, look, I'm going to write something, you write something, because Mosier decided to stay and finish it. So he's like, I'm going to write, you write. Whoever's got one first, the other will come and help them. So both of them actually did write a script, which was something that came out fairly recently. They both had written a script, but
Clerks was
when
better, I
Mosier
guess.
read Clerks, he's like, this actually is closer to being a real movie, whereas mine is a little more complicated. So,
You know what the ironic part is? Given what's happened recently,
yeah.
the fact that a movie that Scott Mosier directed
Yeah.
has made more than Kevin Smith's entire career.
Yep. In the opening weekend, I think.
Because Scott Mosier just directed the recently released Grinch
Yeah.
movie with Illumination, or co-directed.
Co-directed, yeah.
So that's
co-directed.
crazy.
Yeah,
man.
that's... I mean, as Kevin always said, like, he would literally say he's not a director, and he actually did say repeatedly that Scott would have been a better director. Because Scott has more patience than Kevin. Kevin doesn't really... He likes dialogue. Anything else, he's just like, yeah, I don't care.
See Clerks.
Yeah. Very much so. So, when he came back to raise money, what he did was when he worked at the video store, because he worked at both the Quick Stop and RST that this movie is set in, where he would write to a bunch of credit card companies and said that he was the manager of the video store and he made like $60,000, something like crazy for that time period. So when they would call and to verify, he'd be the one answering the phone. He'd be like, oh yeah, Kevin Smith, great manager. He makes this and this and this. So he got a bunch of credit cards with these really high limits. And then he sold his comic book collection. And what had happened was he was ready to start shooting in, I think it was December. Mm-hmm. But what happened was his town got flooded completely.
There's a big nor'easter.
Yeah, nor'easter flood, completely flooded everything. And what had happened was, and he always says this is the one time Jason Mewes was ever right about anything in his life, the two of them had bought 2 Volkswagen Beetles that they were going to fix up and sell to try and make a profit again to put into Clerks. And when the news was saying, hey, it's going to flood, Kevin had the 2 cars in his driveway, and Mewes called him up. And was just like, hey, man, these are going to flood. We should get the cars and move them up to a higher ground. And Kevin's like, no, you're an idiot. Forget this. And then, sure enough, it happened. And yeah, the cars were flooded and they were destroyed. So he, when he goes to FEMA, which is like the relief fund that gives you money, insurance kind of thing, he wrote in not what he paid for the cars, but the actual market value for the cars. And got a check for $4,000 for these cars that I think he paid a total of like $300. So he put that in the Clerks as well. So
he meal-pieced this budget.
He very much so. He also borrowed money off his parents.
Yeah. He meal-pieced this budget.
Yeah, Scott borrowed money off his family. Like, it was just nothing. Just crazy amounts of just, like, guerrilla filmmaking at its finest.
And you can tell.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the film, as much as, like, you know, again, I love it and everything like that, it's very much, the more you look at it, the more you realize, oh, they had no budget. All he had access to was the 2 stores.
When Walt Flanagan keeps showing up.
Yeah.
And...
Well, there's a story behind that, but that's not budgetary reasons.
No.
That's because people are assholes.
Yeah.
But, So what ended up happening was, okay, I'm just going by my own notes on top of my own remembering stuff. So when they decided to hold auditions for the actors, and this is one of my favorite stories of basically Marilyn got the gig as Veronica because she cried in the audition. That was it.
Acting brilliant.
Yeah, literally it was that. She cried, and they were just like, "Oh my god, how did she do that? Like, what do you think happened to her?" Like, they just could not grasp the fact that she cried. So they're like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing that's ever happened." So she immediately got the part
Give
because
that
she
woman
cried.
an Oscar.
Yeah, literally got the part because she cried, which is genius. Dante, Brian O'Halloran got the part just simply because they liked his audition.
He chops.
He was good. I've actually seen his audition piece because they did film them all. It's on the Blu-ray and the DVD of the Clerks X DVD. Dude does have some chops. Like, there, you can see it there. It's like, because the whatever the monologue he's doing, nothing like Dante. It was really good. Jeff Anderson got the part because he was a friend of Kevin's, kinda. They weren't really friends, but they were kind of friends.
He was at the auditions.
He was
because
there.
he was scoping out chicks.
He was scoping out chicks, and he was there because it was a lot of people they went to high school with. Because he went to high school with Jeff. They weren't really friends, but they'd hung out a couple times, and they're just like, "Hey, man, come over." A bunch of people there, and Jeff, this is kind of his thing. He likes to scope out the ladies. There's more to this story later on. But, yeah, so he just went there for that, and because they'd already had his friend Ernie O'Donnell playing Dante, and he was atrocious. Ernie O'Donnell shows up later on as Rick Darris.
Yeah.
And tried to do the Dante role as Rick Darris. And if you've ever seen that performance, So Jeff got it just simply because he was like, he did come up and do an audition just for the shit of it. And he did using Jay's monologue that actually is cut from the film. Which involves a whole story about Jay's aunt catching him having sex with his cousin. The only line in the film that retains from that entire monologue, and you would never notice it unless you're really paying attention, is right before the scene with Olaf. Jay actually says, in the actual cut of the film, he just says, "I don't care if she's my cousin or not, I'm going to knock those boots again tonight." But there was a whole speech about how he was boning his cousin, which the Jay character would totally do that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, basically they decided, like, Jeff Anderson's got a really good voice. And Kevin called him up one day out of the blue and was just like, "Hey, do you mind if I come over and read the script with you?" And he goes, "Yeah," which is weird because they weren't friends. Apparently that day, Jeff had a recruiter over from the Marines because him and his friends were assholes and they would constantly sign each other up for the Marines. So he had to tell the guy no. But then, yeah, he got the part based on how good his voice sounded. Which is true. Jason Mewes is the Jay character.
at that time.
At that time, kind of still is now if you listen to his podcast.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
really not much different. He's just a little smarter.
And cleaner.
A little.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. If you look at pictures, not so much.
Mm.
But he... when everything was written down and he wrote everything that Jay did and wrote it into the character and then handed the script to Mewes, and Jason Mewes was just like, "I don't think I can do this." What the fuck do you mean you can't do this? This is you.
It's you.
It's you on a page.
You
Just
can't play
be
you?
you. He couldn't figure it out, so he actually had to rehearse repeatedly with him alone, just to teach him how to be him.
I mean,
Which
I
is
saw
amazing.
interviews because I'm sure you like
Mm-hmm.
on the Clerks. There's actually a full length documentary about the making of the film, which is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Called The Snowball Effect.
Yes.
And Jay had a good point.
Yeah.
I do things to amuse me. I don't do things to amuse other people.
That's true.
So like I have to say all these lines and be funny in front of everybody and like 1, 2, 3. Snoochie boochies.
Yeah.
Like I can, you know.
But though it was a lot of that of him not figuring out exactly how to do all of the things he used to do.
Yeah.
So Kevin got Lisa Spoonhauer from an acting class he sat in on. So they were just there, and he approached her in the parking lot, which was awkward to say the least, especially because when he handed her his business card, which based on
Going to his big coat.
yes,
Get it?
yes, he did have because he did wear that coat. That coat was his,
Yeah.
but his business card was the best part because Walt Flanagan, who, if you know his podcast, he's the guy who runs the comic book store on Comic Book Men, is kind of a conservative.